Welcome to this 7th video as part of Introduction to 3F Future Fintech Framework. I'm glad that you have been through the initial 6 videos and got to understand what this whole framework is all about. But hey, wait, we are not done yet, because though you learnt about 3F Future Fintech Framework, there are few important messages with respect to why you need to understand frameworks, right? And why frameworks are very important and play a very big role as part of your career. It'll help you go a long way in terms of your career performance and growth, and help you stand out. And that's exactly what we cover in the concluding 2 videos, which is the 7th and 8th videos. So here we are with the 7th video, where we talk about why frameworks are important. And as part of this, we're going to introduce you to what is the difference between knowledge and framework, because whatever you learnt as knowledge and what you learn as framework, there is a good amount of difference. And what is that? So it's very important to understand, because you need both, especially in an age where you are bombarded with knowledge. Knowledge is kind of freely available over a Google search, right? Literally, it's not so simply said and done, but there are obviously questions with respect to validity of that knowledge which are arising. But more or less, we are in sync with the fact that knowledge is kind of available. If you want to learn anything, you can just go and learn about it, know about it. So what's the difference between knowledge and framework, which is very important for us to learn, so as to end up really appreciating what all you have learned till the 6th video. The other key thing is, which I'm basically kind of helping support some of my thought processes and relate to with a recent study by McKinsey, which relate to all that thought process, and it talks about the importance of frameworks in the future world of innovation, digital, or the future of work. So we're going to discuss about that very briefly. So let's begin with this quote from Michael Dell, where he says that you don't have to be a genius or a visionary or even a college graduate to be successful. You need a framework and a dream, and this is just help you start thinking about how important frameworks are. Because if you have frameworks and you have a dream, and all that is needed is action, right? And gradually using the framework, things will fall in place, right? That's the power and importance of a framework over knowledge. So let's see what's the difference between knowledge and framework. So this image here is basically a pile of cloth. Knowledge in itself is like this pile of clothes. So you may have the best of the clothes, a number of clothes or dresses to wear. So that itself will not define everything. So that's like a heap or a pile where knowledge, information, content, and all this is totally today available, right? Kind of. A few years back, that was not the case. Today, the access to knowledge is much easier for everyone. But if it's just knowledge, information, and so much of it, right? Especially given the current age, there is so much of knowledge and information, right? You just end up piling it. You don't have time to, so you're basically disorganized. You lack clarity. There is difficulty to act. So assuming you have a party and you need to wear some good combination of dress, in this pile of cloth, it may be difficult for you to trace that combination out, and you cannot act. You cannot think clearly. There can be wastages. For example, you had a party where you had to wear maybe a black t-shirt and a blue jeans, and you couldn't locate it in the pile, and you may probably end up purchasing it. So there will be a lot of wastage in terms of time, money, duplicity. It'll end up proving costly, inefficient, improper, not timely. You cannot prioritize, right? So assuming you didn't have a black t-shirt even in this pile, but you don't know about it, right? So you can plan and prioritize if you knew about it. So what is lacking, right? You have the knowledge, so you may have the clothes, you have the, but if it's in a pile with so much overload of information, this is more likely to happen with most of us. If we are a little bit more organized, maybe it impacts us less. But given the world we live in, where information is constantly being bombarded, new changes happening, the situation of us piling up information is most likely to happen. And then all these challenges and problem with just having knowledge, information, or content. So this is what just having knowledge, information, of content does. Now this brings us to the fact that what a framework will do for you. Right now, let me, probably you'll end up appreciating what a framework does. So a framework is like this. It's an wardrobe. A framework is framework is not knowledge like clothes. It's not knowledge, information, and content. Framework is like a wardrobe. It helps you organize your knowledge, information, or your clothes in a better way. And once you are able to organize your clothes, so it's like, it's no more, it helps you develop better understanding. So framework is, remember, we always tend to emphasize, like, we need to, we do this course, we do the other course. Intention is to gain knowledge. So it's not about knowledge, as I said. Even if you have limited knowledge, but you have a good framework, it will help you develop an understanding. So the understanding you develop, so the timely wearing of the clothes and the combination of clothes is more important than having 10 t-shirts and jeans, right? And if they are lying in a pile, they probably crumpled. So you are more organized, the clothes are well maintained, all those things. So framework help us develop an understanding and manage knowledge better. The same way a wardrobe helps you manage your clothes better and dress better, right? Correct. Otherwise we tend to relate dressing better with just clothes, but remember, wardrobe plays an equally important, same way frameworks play an important role. So this is a very important thing for you to understand, and that's when you'll appreciate why you need to know frameworks. Because even if you have limited knowledge but a good framework, over a course of time you can pile up that knowledge and organize them clearly. But if in absence of a framework, you'll end up with a pile wherein you'll not end up with good clarity and using that knowledge effectively. The same way this pile of clothes is. So basically, a framework will help you transform from all these problems, which is disorganized to getting organized, from lack of clarity to getting better clarity, from difficulty to act to quick to act. All these things are needed today. In a digital age, your actions have to be faster. Same way, from wastage to very little or no wastage. Elimination of duplicity. Instead of, a pile of clothes is costly, whereas if it's organized, and in a framework, you're able to better manage costs. From inefficiency to efficiency, from improper to proper, from not being timely to timeliness, right? As I said, when you need a particular cloth for a particular event at that particular date and time, it's there in the wardrobe. Or if you are planning, if it's not there, you can get it organized, because the moment you see a wardrobe, you see, oh, probably my t-shirt is not ironed and kept properly, let me take it to the laundry to get it ironed, or maybe do it myself, right? But if you didn't have a wardrobe and it was lying in a pile, maybe you could have missed doing that. And then you're able to prioritize yourself better, because eventually in life you have to juggle between priorities, right? It's not just a simple good versus bad kind of choice. You have to prioritize between some probably equally or less better, or options, and that's what a framework helps you do. So as manager, it helps you stand out, think differently, think with clarity, be more efficient, and the likes of those. So as I mentioned, you don't need too many clothes but a good wardrobe to dress well regularly. Similarly, you don't need too much knowledge but frameworks to be successful in a consistent basis, and that's where a framework helps. And 3F Future Fintech Framework is one such framework. And I emphasize this fact that, and this is something I keep hammering, the framework which I've authored is not about knowledge, right? You can Google search and probably find about almost most of the stuff which I talk about. You can find out much more detail in terms of what I've written in the book, but the book gives you a framework which you will not find everywhere. The way it has been structured, concise, simplified, and that's the power of what a framework does to you. So don't compare the knowledge of this framework with any knowledge with any knowledge, information, or content which is available. This is a unique framework. Irrespective of knowledge which you have, which you are going to probably imbibe, this framework will definitely be of benefit and use to you. And this is something you'll feel as you gradually keep thinking or orienting yourself to the thought process which I talk about in those frameworks. And by now I think I've given you a good peek in terms of what those components of framework are, and this is basically meant to drive home the point of the importance of a framework. Very quickly, as I mentioned, that was as far as knowledge versus framework, the difference and why it is important. There is a very recent study by McKinsey on responsible innovation, and the only reason I am quickly highlighting this to you is this study was recently done, in my opinion, in maybe April, March 2022, very recently. And the framework basically emphasizes on the fact that there is a growing need for frameworks, standards, and capabilities which can help product managers, because product manager is like a fulcrum of any new product, project, or solutions, and it helps them be more effective. So any organization needs to ensure that their innovations, digital, project management, business analysts, UI UX, project teams, like anyone working on new product or existing improvement in product processes, they need to be trained in new frameworks. This is the crux of it. Obviously this is available on McKinsey's site, and you can read it by registering there. But this is to drive home the point that my framework is one such framework which will help you reach that goal for innovation, right? There's another McKinsey study, and this study is about future of work, wherein they specifically talk about emerging skill sets needed for you to for in the new digital or the age, right, in the to enter the workforce. And it concludes by saying that the current emphasis of the learning ecosystem is largely on areas like digital literacy, programming literacy, humility, data analysis. They are important, but if you notice the lower part, which is those black bars, which is lowest correlation to education. So it means that these things which are today, they surveyed more than 18,000 people across over a dozen or 2 dozen countries, and they found out that these skills which are in black are more important in future, like synthesizing information, coaching, creativity, imagination, courage, risk taking. So some of these themes basically help relate to what my framework is trying to imbibe. For example, my framework is trying to imbibe courage and imagination. My framework is basically trying to kind of help you synthesize messages by simplifying all that is happening into easy to understand themes and trends. My framework is emphasizing on collaboration and ways to do it through those models or approaches I talked about. My framework basically talks about things like how do you innovate, because innovate helps you stand out, perform better, and all those things are equally important for future of work and for you to really grow in your career. So this was another study by McKinsey. This was done in 2021, I think in the first or second quarter of 2021 this study came. I think June 2021 is the, again this is available on McKinsey's website, and you can probably access it, the details of this study there. I want to conclude this particular section before the final slide is by this quote by Bill Gates, which says that the more you learn, the more you have a framework that knowledge fits into, right? And I have provided you such a framework, and especially in as part of this seventh video, uh, I have basically tried to convey to you why framework is important and how it actually complements your knowledge, because traditionally we've been focused on just knowledge, content, information, and the moment we learn anything we feel no the frameworks are equally important. That's the point I'm trying to drive with this particular video, and that's why I said these two videos, they're not uh, part of the core component of 3F Future Fintech Framework, but they are important for you to understand, appreciate why you should learn frameworks, because knowledge and information will keep coming to you at a later stage, but frameworks, if you learn, that means you have created a wardrobe. Tomorrow you can keep stuffing it with clothes and managing your clothes better. But if you don't have a wardrobe, you cannot do that better. And I took you through this, and then I just seconded it and tried to kind of reinforce it with certain studies by McKinsey, and how there the emphasis on frameworks, imagination, creativity, collaboration, and all those things being talked about as part of the study. So this brings us to the end of video 7, and as I said, stay with us till the final and the 8th video, because in the 8th video I am going to basically tell you about how will you get this 3F edge, or learn more about the 3F Future Fintech Framework and how it will actually benefit you. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.